The quest to transform Northern Europe into a multi-ethnic society is powered by the conservative elite who wants cheap labor and a splitted and divided working class of people. It's powered by the people that controls the multinational companies who clearly uses this divide and conquer policy to distract people from the fact that the outsourcing and the loss of jobs constantly brings in more and more desperation in our population. It's powered by the central banks whose main interest is as much chaos as possible, because this in fact preventing the people from using their time and energy in asking too many questions in how the global monetary system actually works, to enslave people and to enslave the next generations. The more conflicts among the population itself, the more bigger chance for the bank world to maintain their fantastic printing press of artificial money. And one of the reasons to why they got away with this agenda is that they have also created a lot of jobs in the public sectors, in the public system, to the spoiled 68 generation, who also profited of their evil agenda. In contrary to the national parties around Europe, I have another idea to fight back against this conquer and divide policy that has been laid out for us by the ruling elite. It is not constructive that you have this policy, for example, like the Danish Folk Party have in Denmark, that you that you dig the trenches between the Muslim people and our own population deeper and deeper and deeper. I know that many leaders of these parties do not have the intention of doing that, but that is the effect that their policy have in the population. These nationalistic parties that our people turn to in these difficult times is playing along the elite's conquer and divide policy. The more asylum homes attacked in Europe, the more elite people is clapping their hands because they succeed in turning normal people's rage against some innocent people from the poor countries. Instead of that rage was turned against the ruling elite. The solution I'm thinking about is to trick the elite. Let's trick them, ladies and gentlemen. Let us show clearly that we, the normal working class of people, does have that human spirit and that good moral that the global elite does not have, that the people that control us does not have. We, as the people of Europe, and not at least this northern part of Europe, should show that we could deal with these refugees and help these poor people without ending up in chaos and hatred. After all, the asylum seekers has been the original casualties of the Western finance interest in first place. If we do anything else, we would all be casualties of the elite's divide and conquer policy. I propose a new idea here. We in the northern part of Europe should implement a new name and registration law towards the asylum seekers from Muslim countries. Let every refugee, every asylum seeker being given a new name as soon as he proclaims that he has come to our world to get a new life. This new name should of course be 100% identical to our nation's local domestic names. In Denmark, a Syrian refugee should be named Hans Jensen. In Germany, a Muslim man should be named Daniel Müller. In Sweden, a Syrian man could be named, for example, Lars Larsson. With this new name law implemented together with the European Union's other refugee laws in the coming years, there is a big chance that the integration of these people would go much more smoothly than we have seen otherwise in the last 30 years in Europe. In Denmark, for example, there's no doubt about that a manager of a big company mostly is ignoring the letters from people with Arabian names every time he has to hire a new people to his work in his big company. And probably it is like that in many other places of Europe also. So that kind of small racism behavior is of course a main contributor to the fact that many foreign people end up in criminal activities. Because when they have tried to get a job 100 times and experienced every time that they have a big disadvantage already beforehand because of a foreign name, then of course they simply is giving up in the end. Years of not having a job would easily put people into criminal things even you and me. This idea with local domestic names to foreign people in Europe works in two ways, of course. The other side is from the Muslim people themselves. Every Muslim man or woman who is ready to give up their Middle East names when they come to Europe clearly shows that they are willingly to 100% integrate in our society, or at least have the intention of doing that from the start. So when they accept to being dealt a new name, they also show us that they have not come to our world to make Islam take over, but that they just actually need a life and want to make a good life for themselves here. I have personally a couple of times tried to settle in other countries, and I must say that give up your old name that belonged in another country thousands of kilometers away and getting a new local name that would help the possibilities to get a good life in a new country, that is in fact a modest and small thing to do. I know many Muslim people will be too proud to accept this in the start, but we the people have to be hard in this subject. We demand from the Muslim people who wants to settle in our countries that they show us that they are willingly to fight side by side with us against that elite that actually caused all the devastation at first hand, and they can show that by accepting a new name. Our common goal has to be a peaceful and constructive living among all our cultures here in Europe. And that would be to the ruling classes' big disappointment. They benefit from the fact that they think that we cannot live side by side. But ladies and gentlemen, side by side we can manifest that strength it would take to make a new monetary system, to jail corrupt politicians who sold out of national interest to the elite people, or to placing the responsibility for the evil wars that the US have started, and so on and so on. I truly believe that the normal European citizen have much more in common with his Muslim neighbor than he has with his own true upper elite class of rich people who is benefiting from his desperation and lack of power to say no. Yes, of course, there would come a bit more Muslim into our world implementing my strategy here, the Hansendoctrine. But to all our nationalistic friends around Europe, I can truly say that before the Muslim people can Islamicize Europe, believe me, their old Muslim countries in the Middle East would have benefited so much from this strategy that peace will be again down there, and profitable living will be possible again in their old countries. So let's not be too scared about these talks about that the Muslim people would stay here and live forever in the northern part of Europe. Because where do you think a Muslim man wants to live if he can choose himself later on? In northern part of Europe, where there is a fucking cold weather 7 months every year, and you have to pack yourself in 10 pieces of clothes before you go outside, and you are forced to work 10 hours a day, paying big tax every month to your stupid government? Or do you think that he would like to go back and live in his old hot country with good climate and less Big Brother system, living along his own culture with his old friends in his old region and so on? Of course, many of the Muslim people would freely choose to go back in the future. Who wouldn't?